This is News Desk on your election headquarters. Joy News will take you to the EC. At the moment, Chairperson Madam Mrs. Jean Mensah is given an update on the assessment of the mop-up exercise over the weekend.
The global and national lockdown, which brought the world and indeed our nation Ghana to a standstill. Yet in spite of the circumstances and uncertainties, we kept our focus and remained unperturbed, cognizant of the fact that this too would pass. Faced with the uncertainty around the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown, we had no option then but to revise our calendar and move all our activities from April to July, 3 good months behind our planned schedule. It meant that for the first time in the history of our country, a new register was to be prepared in July, as opposed to previous registers, new registers, which had been conducted in the first quarter of the year. The revision of our calendar also meant that the registration had to take place in a rainy season, and there was the fear that our activities would be hindered by the rain. There were also real threats that the fear of the virus would result in a low turnout at the registration centers and ultimately lead to voter apathy. It was also widely speculated that the Commission would not be able to achieve its target of 15 million. However, to the glory of God, we exceeded the set target of 15 million and have recorded a total number of 16,963,306 registrants to date. We experienced a 6-week period of no rain in a rainy season. In spite of the COVID fears and threats, the turnout by applicants at all registration centers throughout the country was massive, leading to the high number of registrants at all the registration centers nationwide. Indeed, the aged, the vulnerable, persons with disability, the youth all participated actively in the exercise. The kids, I must say, arrived on time and worked efficiently. Thankfully, the COVID-19 protocols put in place ensured that lives were not endangered. And by the grace of God, we did not witness the deaths of citizens as predicted. For all this and more, we are grateful to the Almighty God. And we say with conviction that if it had not been the Lord on our side, we could not have come to this point. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my presentation today will focus on 10 key areas, namely, the overview of the registration process, the number of persons with disability who participated in the voters' registration exercise, the gender dynamics, first-time voters, the type and statistics of documents presented by applicants at the registration centers, number of applicants who registered without fingerprints, challenge cases, the total number of registered voters at the end of day 36, the number of registered voters at the end of the 2-day mop-up exercise, and the final provisional figures for the 2020 voters registration exercise. Now to the overview of the registration process. The main registration exercise and mop-up exercise ended successfully on Sunday, the 9th of August, 2020. From the very onset, the Commission was determined to ensure that no eligible voter was left out of the process. We are pleased to say that the exercise was inclusive, participatory, orderly, and peaceful. Ghanaians came out in their numbers to register, and we commend all of you highly for your interest and participation, which made the exercise a success. The experiences and accounts shared by our numerous stakeholders indicate that the training afforded to our temporary officials was effective. The efficiency and professionalism of our field staff, coupled with the robustness of the registration kits, contributed to the high number of registrants we witnessed today. On average, we recorded 150 registrants per kit per day, as compared to previous registrations where we averaged some 80 persons per kit per day. In some places, field staff recorded up to 280 persons per kit per day. This accounts for our ability to exceed our target of 15 million registrants well before the end of the exercise. It is important to note that by day 31 of the exercise, we had recorded 15,178,170 applicants. At the end, by day 31 of the exercise, we had recorded 15,178,107 applicants. I'll now move to the important subject of the number of persons with disabilities who participated in the voters' registration exercise. We are gratified to note that a significant number of persons with disabilities participated in the exercise. As part of our commitment to ensure inclusiveness and to ensure that no one is left behind, the Commission made arrangements to cater for a section of our society at all district offices of the Electoral Commission throughout the country. This is the first time such an arrangement was put in place. But as a commission, we were keen to ensure that vulnerable groups, the aged, persons with disability, pregnant women, etc., all felt comfortable to participate in the registration exercise. And it did pay off. At the end of the registration exercise, 64,996 persons with disabilities had successfully registered in the process. This represents 0.56% of the total number of persons registered, and it demonstrates some good progress made. Gender dynamics. At the end of the registration exercise, our statistics show that 8,775,609 women had registered, compared to 8,187,689 men who had also registered in the process. Women made up 51.73% of the register, whilst men contributed and made up 48.27% of the register. The Upper East region recorded the highest number of female registrants per population, with 54.6%, and the Western region had the highest number of male registrants per population, with 51.2%. First-time voters. As indicated previously, for the purpose of this presentation, we classify first-time voters as persons 18 years at the time of their registration. We classify this age group as first-time voters because over the last 2 years, the Commission has conducted 2 elections, a district-level election in 2019 and a referenda in 2018. Therefore, there's a possibility that those above the age of 18 years may have voted in those elections. At the end of this exercise, 762,944 18-year-olds had registered as voters. This figure represents 4.5% of the total register. To go a little further, 612,104 19-year-olds also registered as voters. In a nutshell, the total number of 18 and 19-year-olds who had registered at the end of the exercise add up to 1,375,048 persons. This figure represents 8.1% of the total register. I'll now turn my attention to the type and statistics of documents presented by applicants at the registration center. Out of the over 16 million persons who registered at the end of the exercise, 60.09% of citizens used the Ghana card. 37.99% registered through the guarantor system, and 1.92% registered with their passports. The region with the highest number of persons who use the Ghana card is the Oti region, where 79.1% of the registered population presented the Ghana card. They were followed by the Eastern region, where 78.5% of applicants presented the Ghana card. The Western North region came third, with 76.9% of the registered population presenting Ghana cards. Regarding the use of the guarantor system, the Bodo East region recorded the highest use of the guarantor system, with 58.5% registering through guarantors. They are followed by the Bono region and the Ahafo region. In both regions, 57.7% of the registered population used the guarantor system. We will now turn our attention to the number of persons who registered without fingerprints. A number of applicants who presented themselves for registration had lost their fingerprints. This made it impossible for the scanners to capture their fingerprints. This was, however, not unexpected, and these applicants will be verified on election day using our facial recognition feature. At the end of the registration exercise, the number of persons who were registered without fingerprints amounted to 61,995. This represents 0.37% of the total number of persons registered. The Upper East region had the highest number of this class of applicants. A total of 9,244 applicants were found to have traumatic fingers. The region with the lowest number of traumatic cases was the Ahafo region, which had 813 persons with traumatic fingers. It is important to explain that the nature of one's occupation often accounts for this phenomenon. Now to the challenge cases. One of the mechanisms set out in law for cleaning the register and ridding it of ineligible persons is the challenge system. The challenge system contributes to ensuring and guaranteeing the credibility of the register. It enables a qualified registered voter to challenge the registration of an applicant on the grounds that the applicant does not satisfy the laid down requirement, namely that the applicant is not a Ghanaian, or that he or she is not 18 years of age, or that the applicant is not of sound mind. At the end of the exercise, the number of challenge cases amounted to 37,762 cases. This represents 0.20% of the total register. The regional breakdown will be made available online and after my presentation. From the data, one can observe that the Oti region had the highest number of challenge cases per population, with 0.51% of the registrations being challenged. This is followed by the Ahafo region, where 0.38% of registrations were challenged. And then the Volta region, with 0.37% of registrations being challenged. It is evident that most of the challenge cases were from border regions, with the exception of Ahafo. And it gives reason to assume that the challenge cases relate to citizenship issues emanating from the infiltration of foreigners. At a later date, we will shed more light on our findings. The Commission is mindful of the infiltration of foreigners at a number of our registration centers. Additionally, we are aware that a number of minors have found their way into the register. We are confident that the challenge processes initiated at all districts throughout the country will unearth these illegal persons and rid the register of those who do not qualify to be thereon. We are confident that the register that will be used for the 2020 elections will be a wholly owned Ghanaian enterprise, reflecting qualified Ghanaians and Ghanaians only. I'll come to the important subject of the total number of registered voters at the end of day 36. That is the main registration exercise. We now come to the number of persons who registered as at day 36. The number of persons amount to or add up to 16,932,492. At the end of the 2-day mop-up exercise, 30,814 persons had successfully registered as part of the 2020 voters registration exercise. In a nutshell, the total number of registered voters at the end of the 2020 voter registration exercise stands at 16,963,306. I'll take that again. At the end of the 38-day voter registration exercise, the total number of registered voters stands at 16,963,306. The regional breakdown is as follows. Greater Accra leads with 3,509,805. They are followed by Ashanti region with 3,013,856. Then comes Eastern region with 1,628,180. They are followed by Central region with 1,566,061. Then comes Western region with 1,185,315. Northern region follows with 1,047,539. Then follows Volta region with 929,322. Upper East comes next with 653,730. Bono, 648,408. Bono East, 592,015. Upper West, 470,271. Western North, 465,444. Oti region, 353,492. The Ahafo follows with 315,827. Savannah region follows with 295,648. Then we come to Northeast, 288,393, giving us a total of 16,963,306. As explained at all our Let the Citizen Know encounters, these are provisional figures. The process of deduplication and adjudication, which are currently ongoing, will flag multiple registrations in the system. Additionally, the challenge system put in place during the registration and exhibition exercise will further flag unqualified voters on the register. Ultimately, these processes will contribute to the cleaning of the register and ensure its integrity and credibility ahead of the 2020 election. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's Let the Citizen Know encounter. And before we take a bow, we would like to assure the good people of Ghana that as a commission, we are determined to put in place and ignite all mechanisms available to us to clean the register and rid it of all unqualified persons, i.e. minors and foreign nationals. We are confident that at the end of the day, we will present Ghanaians with a credible register that reflects Ghanaians only, a wholly owned Ghanaian endeavor. We would like to express our gratitude to the citizens of Ghana for believing in us and for participating massively in the 2020 voters registration exercise. The spirit of patriotism demonstrated over the past 6 weeks has been phenomenal, and we are most grateful to you all. We would also like to thank our partners, particularly the security agencies under the auspices of the Election Security Task Force, the judiciary, and all the magistrates working in the districts to ensure the credibility of the voters' register, our media partners, civil society and observer groups for your contributions, which have made the 2020 voters' registration exercise a success. I would also like to thank our staff, our indefatigable regional directors, head office directors, deputy directors, district electoral officers, and all our support staff, as well as our temporary officials, for their hard work and efforts, which has made the 2020 voters registration exercise a success. We are proud of you. I cannot end without thanking the Almighty God for seeing us through a successful voters registration exercise. His faithfulness has been constant. The fact that we had 36 days of no rain in a rainy season and a smooth and seamless voters registration exercise can only be by His grace, and we are thankful and grateful to Him. I'd like to thank you all for your attention, and may God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation great and strong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And let me also thank you most sincerely for your able leadership. We are most grateful.
EC Chairperson, Madam Jin Mensah there, and we'll be taking you back shortly when questions are asked and responses given. But let me just bring you some details of her submission. Basically, we are being told now that the total number of registered persons, 16,963,306, and that's the total number of persons as at day 38 of the voter registration exercise, and this includes the weekend when the mop-up was conducted. She, however, put a caveat there. The numbers may reduce because there's deduplication happening at the moment, and the challenge system will further flag or clear persons who are minors and non-Ghanaians out of the system. It's interesting to note that at the beginning of her submission, she did give a lot of credit to God, spoke about the fact that there was a 6-week period of no rain, and the turnout was massive despite COVID-19 fears. And she says kits arrived on time and worked effectively, and they did not witness any deaths as some critics had predicted. We are also given some statistics based on gender, persons with disabilities, and persons whose fingerprints could not be captured by the machines due to some trauma they may have experienced. He said this is largely attributed to the occupation. Let me take you back as we take the questions.
Ghana, just as you said. The very last meeting or press conference we had before Friday, that's last week Friday, I think I raised an issue on security. And then Mrs. Jin Mensah answered me rightly. But I think that Kudeyo also has a report on that. And they also mentioned security. I don't know if you've seen that report. If you haven't, I think that maybe you'd want to take a look at it later. But they also raised an issue of security. And then, for me, my interest has to do with the fact that, personally, I mean, I went around to some of the centers and I realized that there were no security, persons over there. And Kudeyo, which is, of course, a very reputable organization, has also mentioned that going into December election, that is 2020 elections, I think that we need to take a critical look at security once again, so that we beef up security very well in order to prevent a lot of the things that transpired or happened you know, in the process of registration. It's very key to me because we are doing this for the betterment of Ghana, and so feedback is always key. So that is mainly my issue. But I want to wrap up by saying that we've actually been very, very glad doing this with us because as far as this particular press conference is concerned, it's the best. Transparency and all that, you know, getting to know our feedback, which is very key. And so I want to commend you and your team for the good work done. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Isabella Jakwa, Daily Statesman. Isabella.
Good morning. In your previous submissions or presentations, you had mentioned that some people had had their cards withdrawn from the process, I think in the challenge process, especially an NDC parliamentarian. And so I wanted to find out the number of persons who had had their cards withdrawn, and then is this parliamentarian likely to get his card back at the end of the process? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isabella. Next is Wilberforce Asari. Asari.
Okay, so Madam, the Electoral Commission has said that you have had to abridge your timelines to be able to do the exercise. There are several other phases that are ahead of the Commission, about 117 days to the elections. How prepared are you to phase out all this so that we put this through on the 7th of December?
I think we can take some of the questions now. So to the young lady, I think I did mention that we thank our media partners. And maybe I should say it again, that we could not have come this far without you. We appreciate your time here, your devotion, and your coverage. Indeed, you have provided us a gateway you have been our gateway to the citizens. And it's not something that we take lightly. So thank you very much once again. I think you mentioned special voting, and special voting is very different from the registration. You do register, but we have a window for special voting, and we've already, some 6 weeks to 2 months ago, we've written to the Ghana Journalists Association, the security agencies, and so on, to provide us with the list of persons who would qualify for special voting, and that would be done, you know, earlier on in the process. So we are not there yet. You vote before everybody votes, and it has nothing to do with the registration.
I said, why didn't you give us special registration like the security? Since you vote special, very election.
Oh, well, that's not grounded in law. Maybe in future registrations you'll be considered. But I don't think that we'll have any future registrations. But it's not part of our process. And I think the issue of security is very important. And as we mentioned, we are working with the security agencies. We are not working alone. And as a commission, we had engaged and collaborated with the Election Security Task Force some 1 year into this exercise and into the election 2020. And I think I had mentioned previously that, you know, because this was of interest to us, we really dedicated a lot of time and attention to it. We provided the security with the flashpoint areas. We provided them with information on all the registration centers, the movement by faces, you know, our district offices, you know, to enable security personnel take their positions at all registration centers and district offices throughout the country. It's important to mention, though, that security is not just the police, and we are dealing with the immigration and customs as well. So it's important that when we go to these centers, we are mindful and we are paying attention to others who may not be in a similar uniform as the police. From all our investigations and our monitoring from the field, we are aware that there were security in all the registration centers and in our district offices as well. And our officers, both our district electoral officers and regional directors have confirmed that. We also had monitors on the field for 36 days. And the reports we are receiving indicate that there were security personnel on the ground. So this is an issue that has been raised in Kodeo's report. We'll go into it and maybe go a little deeper to find out the exact centers where there were no security. But from the monitoring reports that we have received, this was not an issue. So in our daily briefings with the security agencies, or from the national level, the regional and district levels, this didn't come up. And indeed, I had a lot of exchanges and collaborations with the IGP at that highest level, raising issues along the line. But the absence of security was not one of them. So we will take the report and delve deeper, go into those areas where there was no security to ensure that this is indeed the case. And if it is, then we'll pay close attention. We do realize that security is a major, major issue. And whilst it is not the mandate of the Commission, we did not leave it to the security agencies. And that's why we had the constant engagements with the task force 1 year ahead of the exercise and throughout the lifetime, the 38-day period. And it continues. But these are issues that we will look into. Again, we were asked the question about the cards that have been withdrawn. And I think that we can answer this when we come to the end of the challenge process. And I mentioned in my presentation this morning that we will provide you with more updates. Even if we look at the statistics of the challenge cases, we will give you challenges of minors, challenges of foreign nationals, challenge because persons are not of the age of 18, persons are not of sound mind, and so on. But we need a little bit of time. This must come to an end before we are able to provide you with those details. So I believe that that would happen. And on the issue of, our program, we have an extensive program, very, very well thought out with some buffers. So you look at our program, and for every activity, we build in buffers. And by that I mean we build in some number of days so that if things don't happen as planned, those days take care of it. And for all intents and purposes, we are very, very well on track. We are fully on track. The days set aside for the registration, where we used those specific dates, we didn't have to extend it. And things are going well. I believe that we'll be briefing you. This is the Let the Citizen Know platform. Is a regular engagement, and as we prepared, we're planning now for the exhibition process and so on. But just to assure you that all is well and things are on track. We were mindful of the time constraints, and so when we started working in July, we worked to ensure that by the 7th of December, or well before the 7th of December, by the grace of God, all will be well. So we are confident of that. We can share the plan with you. We have the printouts of the plans in posters. I have one on my wall, and it will be important if every media house has one on your wall as well, so that you can follow some of the plans that we have. So thank you.
Just brief to the security. I think when you look at the Kodeo report, the gentleman was asking about security. This particular report by Kodeo focuses on phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, and the mop-up. So when you read the report very well, Kodeo is saying that in each phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, we did an average of 6,700 centers. So when you put the three phases together, we did almost 20,000 centers. Apart from that, we also did, the mop-up was done in our district offices, about 267 centers. So for the three phases Kodeo worked on, we worked in almost 21,000 centers. And Kodeo operated in 300 centers. I hope you are getting the dynamic. They went to 300 centers, but we worked in 21,000 centers. And in their report, they stated that in 62% of the centers, security men were there. But 38% of the centers, security men were not there. Meaning that for the 300 they visited, almost about 180 to 200 security presence was felt. So you can't say because they used 300 and 38% of the 300, the security men were not there. It suggests that we didn't have security personnel at our various centers. I hope it's clear. So the point is that we, as the chairperson said, based on the reports coming to us, we didn't hear of any center without a security man. And let's be very clear, some of the centers are so orderly that when you go, the security man may be sitting somewhere. Where I registered, for example, I had to ask where is the security, not knowing he was sitting somewhere. So some of the places are so orderly. And I want to also paint a picture that when people do a report and they come up with the findings, we shouldn't see that as the gospel truth. This is a social science research. This is not like the science when you put two colors together, automatically you get this. So we should read it and probe further. Because as far as the commission is concerned, I don't think we operated with 38% of our centers without security when we know all our places have been provided with security. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Dr. Bosman. I think we have two more questions, just two more questions from City FM 62s.
I would have been surprised if I didn't see 62s. And I don't see Parker here today. Is Parker here? Okay. I think they like to ask questions. Even after the meeting, you can be sure that they would chase you and try to get the most controversial questions through. So you're welcome, 62s.
Thank you. And since this will be the last encounter on this, please grant me a little leeway. I've just short ones for you so that I don't chase you after this. The first one will be on the facial recognition. This having to do with persons with traumatic fingers, as you call them. Where I registered, I didn't get the sense they had captured me facially. So I'm wondering, was this specially done in some areas or it was done on my blind side? Because where I registered, it was just a picture that was taken of me, and they didn't ask me to tilt my head anyhow for them to capture me. So just to find out. The second brief one would be on the Ahafo region. Realize the challenge issues there is also very high, and you identified that as, call it a misnomer. It doesn't fit in the formula of the top regions leading the challenge forms. I'm wondering why that is the case, because we seem to have a clear definition or understanding of what happened in Oti, Volta, Bono, East, but the Ahafo seems funny. So why is Ahafo amongst the top regions with challenge cases when it is not a clear-cut border area with the issues that came up? Again, the Kodio report we are referring to talks about a number of people who had joined the queue. This was during the mop-up. They had joined the queue. They had even filled forms, but could not register due to time. I've been pondering over that and asking myself how this is, because I thought that if you were in the queue and it got to the time for the team to close, they would still register you, also considering that this was the final day. So what's the future for these persons, particularly those who were able to fill the forms but were not able to register before the time elapsed? And finally, I'm repeating this question because persons I know personally abroad are watching and asking me to ask. The issue about people who have been locked out. What measures, they've petitioned the EC already, that I understand. Has this petition been considered? Are there considerations for them to be able to register in the near future before the election so they can also vote in the elections? Thank you for your understanding.
We responded to the petition, I believe.
The last question is coming from Joseph Akable. Joy.
You stated that the Commission is aware that foreigners and minors have been registered. I just wanted to know how the Commission is aware of this, since the challenge process, as you pointed out, in many cases are yet to conclude. And also in terms of numbers, how many of these ineligible people are we looking at? Thank you.
I think that how the Commission is aware is because we have monitors on the ground. And as we mentioned, we've had monitors present on the ground for 38 days who provide us with daily reports on what is happening on the ground, and in some cases we are even videos and so on are shared with us in some instances. So we are very mindful of that, and I'm sure that you are also aware, because this has also been discussed in the media landscape. Even today we see in some of the newspapers 2 foreigners jailed for possessing voter ID cards. So it's not something that is oblivious to us, but we are aware because we receive those reports from our monitors on the field, and I know that this is not a secret. As to the number, we are not able to say so now, and I think I mentioned that at the right time, when we are done with the challenge cases and the reports have been received, we will be able to give you a breakdown of the challenges per category, whether it's for minors, foreigners, underage persons, persons who are not of sound mind, and so on. So I'm sure that in the coming weeks is something that we would share with you. For those who could not register, I'm not sure that we usually would receive a list, of such persons at the end of the process that such a few people could not register. We are yet to receive such a list from the regions. But so we are not aware that there are centers where people could not register, because if that had been the case, we would have received some lists by now, and we are not saying that it's not possible. But as far as we are concerned, those who presented themselves were registered during the mop-up exercise which ended on Sunday. But we will go into that and see. And I'm sure that in due course we would come up with some policy to determine, those who were not able to do so. I think that facial recognition is a software, and indeed the cameras that took your photographs are embedded, and the system is embedded with a software that ensures or that provides the facial recognition feature. And so it is not a 3D equipment, as some persons have sought to promote. We've seen articles in the newspapers where some persons have challenged the fact that the EC's facial recognition, function is not available, because I'm sure that they are expecting to see a device that says facial recognition. But it's part of the software, the inbuilt software. So by capturing your photographs, and your photographs at the registration center, it enables that software to function. So once you get to the registration center, that feature will pop up as part of the verification, process. So it's a software that is embedded within the system. And so by taking your photograph, it enables that software to be used at the appropriate time. With Ahafo, we will not be able to say for now why, because it's not a border region. As we mentioned, there are quite a number of factors that may lead to challenge, and it could be because of minors, underage persons, minors, foreigners, or maybe persons who are not of sound mind. So unfortunately, we have not done with the challenge, and we have not received reports from them as to the outcome of the challenges. And once that happens, we'll be able to share it with you. But for now, it's difficult to say what is causing the high incidence of challenge cases in that region. I think that the petition is the last one. I believe we've responded to the petition, and I'm sure that the petitioners may have received the response by now. It's a challenge for all of us that we are grappling with. We have Ghanaians, beyond the borders who are unable to come in. And I mean, the Commission, of course, would have liked to register all eligible Ghanaians, but it's a challenge that we are grappling with. And we ourselves find that we are not able to travel because there are restrictions on travel, not only in Ghana, but around the world. As part of our plan, we were supposed to have traveled to all countries where we had missions and embassies to register the mission staff and students on Government of Ghana scholarship. We have not been able to do this because of the travel restrictions. There are discussions ongoing, and maybe at a later stage when there's some solution, we would provide you with the information on that. But for now, we are all caught within the restrictions and the travel bans that are governing us globally. So it puts us in a tight position, and we are not able to say for sure that, you know, if we'll be able to cross the borders or the borders would open to allow us in. And it's all time, there's a time, we are working within some timelines. And so it has to fall within a particular time so that those persons will be captured on the register. However, we would like to assure them that when they do come in, no matter when, they can take part in the continuous registration processes at the district office. However, they may not be able to vote for the 2020 election. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thankfully, we've come to the end of the 9th edition of Let the Citizen Know, relating to the voter registration exercise. Shall we, at this juncture?
Well, that'll be all for today's edition of Let the Citizen Know. EC Chairperson Mrs. John Mensah has been responding to questions, and let me just bring you details of some of the things she shared earlier before the questions were asked about our total number as at the end of the voter registration exercise, including the mop-up. It stands at 16,963,306 persons, and the highest number of voters recorded in the Greater Accra region were 3,509,805 persons. She also gave us a breakdown of the type of documents that were used by registrants. 60.09% used the Ghana card, 37.99 used the guarantor system, and 1.92 used passports. And we've also been told that persons whose fingerprints were not captured or could not be captured due to some trauma they've suffered will be verified using the facial recognition system. She explains that it's an inbuilt system. It runs in the software, so you wouldn't see any device per se that has facial recognition written on it when you go to the centers. But the persons who could not have their fingerprints captured amount to 0.37% of the total number of registrants, and that's 61,995 people. The Upper East recorded the highest number, and the Ahafo region recorded the lowest number. And we understand that first-time voters, as defined by the Electoral Commission in this particular exercise, is persons 18 years at the time of registration. And this is because in 2018 and 2019, we saw a referenda and a district-level election. So that will account for persons who turned 18 within that period. That means they would have been registered. So the number of persons 18 years who were registered during this particular exercise are 762,944. That's 4.5% of the total. And they also captured the data of persons who were 19 years who registered, and that's 612,104, and that's 8.1% of the total number of registrants. It's interesting that the EC chairperson highlights a unique feature of this particular exercise, and that has to do with catering for persons with disabilities at district offices. And we understand that 64,996 persons with disabilities successfully registered, and that's 0.56% of the total number of persons registered. So there you have it. There will be more also here on the Joy News channel, which is your election headquarters. We would have election brief sometime in the afternoon at 1:30 to 2, and Joy Narabakumsin, I'm sure we'll have some more analysis on this.